our note takers, they'll talk amongst themselves.
They'll learn who we are. Cool. All right. Good morning, everybody. It's our once a summer ROG virtual roundtable. Glad you all could join. I'll start off again, as always, introductions. We'll start, call the person to go next, and then eventually we'll either forget who went or we'll wrap up and everyone will have introduced themselves, and then we'll jump right into our topic. All right, so Joe Wiecek, co-founder of ROG along with Florian. Also now the director of QA and technical operations at Agtonomy, which is an autonomous tractor company located in South San Francisco. So also the first time in my career I've worked in the Bay Area. So Florian, I'm being sucked in slowly.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's cold here. In July 22nd, it's cold here. That's enough about me. Actually, not. I'll also say, if anyone has not known my background, started at Brain Corp when I moved into robotics, scaled their fleet from 50 to 16,000 before I moved on to Outrider, and now I'm here at Agtonomy. So, Ramin, let's go with you.
Yeah, sure. I'm Ramin. I'm in New York City. Just quick background. I started my career in underwater robotics up in Boston, doing bio-inspired stuff, predominantly for research for the Navy and DoD, and then moved down to New York City and started working at a company called Andium, working on vision AI, predominantly for energy industry, doing emissions monitoring for oil and gas. Fleet there started at around 2 devices, and by the time I was moving on, it was about 2,000 or 3,000. So it was a fun experience trying to get stuff deployed out into the field, where you've got places in Texas, New Mexico, and other locations that take a few days to get out there, and also have like property owners with shotguns who are not happy to see you if you didn't know. So remote operations is a huge thing there. Recently started a company focusing on software, sort of fleet management, fleet sec, fleet ops, that whole space, predominantly for physical hardware with an emphasis on robotics, as well as industrial IoT and sort of the vast amount of new hardware that is going into various areas such as the electrical grid, and those places. So founded that company and have been working on that. So it's been good times, exciting time to be in the hardware field, which is exciting. I'll go Aldous.
Thanks, Ramin. Aldous, founder and CEO of Mighty Robots, located in Copenhagen, Denmark. It's currently way too hot and rainy, so I can't have the windows open. My Scandinavian body cannot handle. But I started my journey in drones, specifically wind energy, then last mile delivery, moved towards last mile delivery with robots under the current company, Mighty Robots, in 2019. But we were too early, and we shifted towards doing universal fleet management for mobile robots, specifically targeting the mixed fleet kind of environments, and now branching into incorporating the human-driven element as well to the same fleet, but essentially orchestration for the mobile robots. Can hand over to Florian.
Sure, we'll do 3 in a row with kind of similar focus. Besides being Joe's partner in crime here at ROG, I'm the CEO and founder at InOrbit. We now say InOrbit AI because it's cooler, but we were .ai since the beginning, before it was cool. And I keep refining what we say. I usually say AI-powered robot orchestration. I'm almost at the point where I might drop the word robot, just because we manage a lot of other things. But that's kind of like where we started, was how do we make useful, how do we make the data from the robots usable outside the robot, I guess, is the most general sense. And we've been in this area, robot operations. So we built kind of like from the ground up, inside the robot, we're shipped in, hundreds, maybe thousands of robots out there, have our code in them. But then we built all the layers. And, if somebody is into geology, they can probably look into our code and see all the layers that we built over time. And I think we're in a super exciting time for this space. Sorry if my connection isn't great today. Because, Jensen Huang says, everything that moves will be a robot. And there's a lot of excitement about intelligence and agents and all of that. So really interesting time to be in this space. And again, apologies for the connection. Let me pass it on to Ricky.
I see there is a Rick here, but I suppose I'm Ricky. So Ricky comes from Ricardo, which is a lot more serious name. My second name is Adolf, for you to know. Sorry, I don't use it too much. And I have an Italian surname, so I'm Argentinian and I also Italian. I have been in the in vitro diagnostic industry for 20 years. I'm a biochemist and molecular biologist, but I'm not even that. I'm just a businessman. And I decided to let science go and go to my other love in life, which is technology. So I started a software company, software factory. That's my legacy company. It still exists. It's called We Develop. And I'm very difficult to work with. So my partner said, why don't you go and do some other new startup? We pay you, we put money in that. So I went to, I'm trying to tell you new things, right? Because so it's more interesting. So I went to Austin. We had a lot of customers in Texas. I went to Austin to the South by Southwest, and I saw the French robot that has a ball instead of legs. I forgot the name, but you all know him. It has the face of I don't know, a rabbit or something like that. So I said, okay, the next startup will be about robotics, but I didn't know what about robotics. So it took me a year to decide what to do. Florian had a lot of influence in my decision. It was related to robotic operations. We have been doing staffing for, I don't know, 8-9 years for software engineering for the software business. So I guess that we use all this staffing and nearshore experience to provide human resources specifically to robotic operations. And within robotic operations, what we have been seeing is that support is the most important need today. So I think it's a good place to be. My last trip was two months long. I have some problems with my kids now, but that's coming to, it's being arranged. But I was, I was to Detroit, I was to Chicago, I was to Carnegie Mellon. I went to many places. I visit many people, and everyone is going to sell 1,000 robots, but no one is talking about support. So I think we're in a good place. Rick.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, my name is Rick Hernandez. I'm a robotics engineer. I'm primarily focused on more field robotics, the different applications and the orchestration, more kind of like swarm management of it. I'm here just to learn and kind of learn from you guys and see if I can contribute to the team. I think you were also talking about what location. I'm currently in Chicago, but I'm traveling a lot, so um, the hotel reception here is not very good. I guess Matan.
You got it right the first time. Usually people mess up the name, which is fine. It's a Hebrew name in case you were wondering. Thank you, Rick. Good afternoon from Pau. It's somewhere on the border between France and Spain. We're actually making our way through and we'll be in Portugal for the full week next week. We spent a week in the French Alps. Before that, we were in Israel celebrating my son's bar mitzvah. And eventually we'll be back home in Austin mid-August. So back to the Austin barbecue. Yeah, for sure. I'm drooling here. Thank you, Florian and Joe, for letting me in. When Steve recommended I give you all a call, I am embarrassed to say that I haven't heard of ROG before. And when Steve described what this group is, it felt to me like, okay, why have I not heard of it earlier? This seems like exactly the kind of people I want to be associated with. So thank you. I will also be observing mostly. Word of background.
We'll need to have a word with our marketing department, Matan.
Yes. I'm happy to help here as well. Like, yeah, we need to spread the word. There's more love to be shared here. I like to say that I spent the last decade failing at launching and operating robots at scale. I was always the operator. I worked with the best scientists and engineers on the planet, but I was always at the point where the rubber meets the road, where there's a customer and then there's a robot and no one knows what it's supposed to do and where's the value and where's the ROI and what's the GTM and all that good stuff. I served as a VP Global Ops and GM for 2 startups. One did a drone in a box. The other did AgTech IoT. After that, I joined Amazon and I spent the last 5 years with the company. I led the data collection annotation effort for the drone program to allow a full sense and avoid capability. So some background on the data collection side and how important that is for real world operation. And then I went on to lead the actual delivery service for Amazon for roughly 2 more years. Spent the last 6 months working on strategy for the in-warehouse robotics for Amazon. And as of June 1, I am happily unemployed. The main reason I left was first because we wanted to take a very long summer break, which we're enjoying as we speak. But second, because there's so much happening now. And it does feel like finally we're at this inflection point where things are starting to move. And as much as I appreciate every moment at Amazon, and it is the best school for scale ever, it does feel like you're working with horse blinders on. And now I just get to meet people like a great group here and work with founders and VCs and do some advising and do some diligence. And there's just so much goodness happening right now, and I love every minute of it. I'm not sure what my next gig is going to be. Right now, I'm just supporting startups mostly and looking for a great opportunity. I'm holding back on starting my own gig because I've been to startups from the get-go, and I remember how bad it is, and I don't want to sleep on the office floor. I'm too old for that. But who knows? I might just as well take the leap and make it happen eventually. Right now, I'm just exploring and enjoying the journey. So thank you for having me here.
All right, Shola, last but certainly not least.
Hey, morning, everyone. I apologize. I also have bad internet. I'm at the customer site, and yeah, the internet that they allocate to vendors not always the best. So Shola here, also an operator background. Started off as a chemical engineer running chemical plants. Somehow found my way to early Uber, launching in West Africa. Did that for a bit, and then transitioned over to Neuro. So similar to Baton, how do you build and scale the operations for self-driving? Also helped to launch Cruise, and most recently the VP for customer success at Robust Intelligence, which is a logistics-focused robotic startup. So chatting with DHL and the likes.
Cool. Glad to have you all here. Also, on a side note about marketing, we also want to thank Rick, who is editing videos from about 2 and 3 years ago, so we can update the website and get that marketing actually up to date and actually provide value to people who can't call into these meetings. We'll get there. Thank you, Rick. All right, guys. we'll kick it off. I know introductions probably went a little longer than they usually do, but I think this is going to be a very, knowing as many people on this call as I do already, I feel like we'll have some deep and probably very opinionated comments and conversations, so I'm not too terribly worried. All right, Matan, I can introduce, but it is your idea, so do you want to give us the actual introduction? All right, okay.
No, you're gonna it's your show, man.
All right. So, what do we call it? The how do you set up your field service and your onboarding engines to make sure our customers are successful? Which, given that Shola's at a customer site right now, Matan's been bit. We've all on this call, I believe, deployed and been bitten by things before. So, we all know, and hopefully we can get the rest of the industry to know how complex and complicated it is to get your robots into the hands of end users without your own operators there, and also keep them successful as they're going. It's not sexy, it's not cool, it's never going to make a really great video that's played behind the CES keynote behind Jensen, but it's what allows you to go from 5 to 500 to 5,000 to 50,000. So a couple of topics. I'll kick it off right now, and I want to talk about pre-deployment. Before you even have your field service org there, before you even get your robots on the ground, how are you setting up your fleet? What are you preparing? What do you need? I've got some ideas, but I'd love to have some other folks talk about successes and potentially failures you've had in the past with those initial robot deployments and what you've learned from them. Matan, I am calling on you if you don't volunteer.
It's just that we only have like 37 minutes left, and I can just absorb the entire. Yeah, no. Let's not do Amazon. Let's do startups. So first one was drone in a box solution, and like any good startup, we started by building cool tech, and then we looked for a problem to solve because that's what everybody does, and we all know that's the other way around, right? At the height of building the system, since I was also doing manufacturing and supply chain for the company, one unit BOM was roughly $420,000. And we decided to target the mining industry because regulation VAR was relatively lower there. Western Australia is the capital of mining in the world. So let's go and find value there. Now, after 3 years of trying very hard, we did find value, not enough for real ROI. I think that's a separate topic on how do you build your go-to-market strategy and actually show path to profitability. But from the moment we actually hit the ground with the system, we knew we were not ready. In this case, maybe the thing to talk about more than anything is the cross-border factor. I was just chatting with a founder I'm working with on international expansion. We came in with our CE, with our standards as we understood them, and then realized that Australian miners adhere to a totally different playbook. And everything that we thought met the bar did not meet the bar for them. So a full new safety review, both for the operator procedures, to the system schema, the whole thing all together, set us back roughly by 3 months and a lot of money and a lot of customer trust lost just because we didn't understand the nuances of the specific location we're going to work in. A lot of lessons learned there. Mostly know the standards of where you're going to be working at.
Yeah, I think from the other side too, when we were first deploying with Brain, it also depends who the users are. And I think that, in your point, Matan, you're talking about the corporation, right? The company, and making sure they are keeping their people safe. My experience of getting burned is actually the other way around, is dropping a robot into an environment and not having anything in terms of user guides or documentation or easy ways to how do you continue to use this robot. And Brain product was commercial janitorial. Turnover in that industry is horrendous. So you train the person, they use it great for 3 weeks, but then they leave to go get another job. And then the other person doesn't know how to use it. You don't have any way to prep them for it. Based on the cost, you can't keep sending your technicians out to train them every time they have turnover, and eventually they just start using it as a manual floor scrubber. So I think from that side, your prep was understand regulation, understand the customer from a corporate perspective. The other thing that I would say is your user experience has to be dirt simple, or you have to have easy onboarding or a way to work with that corporate customer to train their employees to continue to use this and figure out how do you get your product into their sort of their culture and their onboarding and their formal training? Florian and then Matan.
I think Matan wanted to reply to that, so
Ah.
I'll cede the floor to the representative from Portugal. Sorry.
Thank you.
so
Real
Fran.
quick, just plus one on everything Joe said. Filled in again, the AgTech company. We had the Walk Me version of the app on how to, but we didn't have the Spanish version. And we didn't realize that 90% of the employees on the shop floor actually do not read English. And you'd be better translated. It's just know your audience kind of piece, right?
I actually have a question for you because we're actually working on some Australia prep right now where someone warned me yesterday that English even is different based on what country and what geography you're in. So even localization in the same...
Aussies are different, man. I went there, thought I understood the culture. It's amazing, but it's different. It's just they're so far. Yeah.
All right, Florian, go ahead.
I was going to try and work, since we talked about Austin and Texas barbecue, wanted to work in some Aussie Barbie reference, but I got nothing. I want to talk about a different experience. I mean, what Matan described, the startup kind of like looking for a problem. I think that's a classic one. But we have also seen very well-established companies getting into autonomy, right? They make awesome machines, and now they're like, we'll slap some sensors on it, and it's going to be the same. And nothing is the same, right? So especially for proud engineering organizations that are proud of making these like machines that are, amazing, robots are never going to be like, 4 nines or anything, like any number of nines. If you get to 2 nines, you're amazing, right? And especially when you launch. So I remember having this conversation with the head of R&D of again, very well-respected company, and basically telling them that their baby was ugly, right? That it was going to fail. And like the shock on their face when I said, your robot is going to fail, which I mean, here it's like, well, duh, right? I mean, in this crowd, it's like we all assume that. But I think my point is, I think it also takes almost like a mental shift, a mental preparation that your robot is going to be in an environment where it's going to encounter situations that it can't handle. So you better prepare. And that this is kind of like the DevOps principle is shit is going to break, right? I think that's how I would summarize it.
Ricky?
I see Ricky.
Yeah, as always, you will be teaching me, but sometimes by teaching you find out answers to your own questions. So I think the call is to talk about field engineering and support and deployment and all of that, right? So what about if we talk about the roles that would we do in this like because we are all pioneers, so we get to name things. So I want to name the roles. So for example, I'm working with a client I cannot mention, of course, but they want a guy that goes and checks on a warehouse what's going on there, how is going to be the surroundings. So I call the guy assessment engineer. How would you call it?
So when I was first hiring for a role managing the fleet at Brain Corp, I went through 4 different job titles until I actually had resumes come in that matched the role. So I had an SRE for robotics, which sort of got the right person, but they couldn't turn a wrench, and you have to be able to turn a wrench if you're going to be managing fleets of robots. Like, especially at a small company, you're not only going to be monitoring performance, you're going to be going out in the field. Then I forget. I finally wound up at robot operations engineer, and then I was really proud when someone stole my exact job description and posted it for another company. So happy to have that stolen. But we don't know. So we're making it up as we go.
Thinking about deployment, like all the problems you mentioned is putting something that has been in a lab and now is on a real world, or something that that it works in the real world, but it's going to be used by a new guy, a new company, a different culture, whatever, right? There is a company that has the problem that they don't use the robot. The employees don't use the robot. So I think it's a fair thing to do is to name the people that is involved in the deployment. I think someone that goes and finds out what does the surroundings look like and where is the robot going to work is a role.
So
that person can do other things later, but at some point is an assessment engineer. Then you would have the field engineer that I would call the guy that goes and does the setup, installation, maintenance, or goes on call, flies in, fly out, or something like that. Would you all agree that these two roles are needed in a deployment?
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're different roles though. Likely the person doing the deployment's also going to be, especially early on, the same person who knows when they first visit a site what's going to work and what's not going to work. I've generally referred to them as like field applications engineers, or you could call them a sales engineer. And these are both roles I've titles you can steal from other industries. But they're absolutely critical to your point, Ricky. And naming them, one thing I think that Florian and I have talked about a lot in this industry is there's a lot we can borrow and steal from other industries that your classically trained roboticist might not be aware of, but we are aware of. So one thing that I've done in the past is type in the list of especially with ChatGPT now, type in the list of responsibilities and see what job titles it pops out. And then you expand the pool beyond just people looking for robotics companies to people with these skill sets who are looking for any job. And all of a sudden you've got experienced people who have done medical devices and, mechatronic systems in other industries who are now drawn to your job. So you then continue to expand our bubble of people in the industry with experience from other industries. Does that?
It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And then my next question would be, I don't know, Matan, if you want to say something about that. But first.
Just referring back to that, I would actually split it. So, Joe, to your point, I use same titles, and I think it makes sense. I also had customer success actually be that voice of the customer and advocate if they're technical enough and understand what they're doing. I think we need to clearly separate a scenario where we're looking for value. Either we're showing up for the first time, we're trying to expand within the same account, build new applications, build capabilities around what our system can do. It's more of a customer success, sales engineering. It's the revenue side oriented folks versus when we're already in the cookie cutter stage and we know exactly what our menu contains and we're going to deploy this with this application. And for that, that's the field service engineer, deployment engineer, field operator, maintainer, pilot in some cases. But I would say these are two separate animals. Sometimes you'll have the geniuses that can do both. But that's usually when you're still in the very, very early stage. When you get to the point where you have more deployments, you'll have to clearly separate the folks that are in operations from the folks that are more revenue oriented or value or product oriented. And then if I need to split it out again, I would also split the folks that build and launch from the folks that operate. Different mindset altogether.
Yeah, those
your
are
deployment
different
teams. Yeah, they come in, they do the thing, spend 2-3 weeks on site, 4 weeks if needed. They move on. Someone else takes care of keeping the lights on.
The guy that goes to the field needs to be also a people because he's the face of the company in some way. So I get everything that you said about customer success. I have another question, but there is a hand somewhere over there. Rule Wrangler.
I'm getting my laptop charger, so someone take it.
Sorry, so I'll jump in here just because I was going to actually say a lot of the things that Matan says because I'm literally hiring for deployment engineer, customer success manager, field technician. And I think about it sort of broken up in that same way. One of the things that I'm still working around, and I've advised with companies that ran into this as well, which is like customer success manager and the roles you attract with the title, right? Which is, oh, this is someone who's done customer success in SaaS and they don't quite understand the things that
No,
go
no,
along
no.
with
The
hardware.
thing is,
Yeah.
you need a field engineer that has people skills, and then you name it customer success.
Yeah, I think if you just post it without that though, then that's what you end up getting, right? Is people who are like, oh yeah, I've been customer success at Salesforce and now I want to come over and do this. And it's like, oh, it's not quite the same thing. But
you also
I
might
hear
be able
you.
to borrow from account management at a company in the industry, right? So a customer, someone who used to be a customer who you would be selling to, if they want to move on to the supplier side, you can hire someone who's done that in the industry before. And this, I'll say in ag tech, one thing we're doing is hiring a lot of people who are farmers who have been customers, who would be customers, and they can talk the talk much more than your SaaS customer success person would. But finding the right person at that point, to Ricky's point and Shola, your point, needle in a haystack if you're not looking in the right place. And the worst, I won't say the worst thing that I've seen, but the worst thing that one of the worst things you can do is put someone in the role of customer success who doesn't understand what it's like to be in your customer's shoes. And that could be really, really like really bad for the company. And I don't know actually the solution for that. I'm just presenting it as a problem without a solution. I mean, you're raising your hand, Matan,
Yes.
you're pointing. I don't know if you have a point to add.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't hit the button. To kind of build on that point on more of the technical side, I think, yeah, one of the things that as an engineering team, or our engineering teams, both at Andium and Boston Engineering, learned the hard way when we started to deploy to customers in a more hands-off way was exactly what you mentioned, Joe, which is this sort of naivety or innocence that's nobody's fault, but is sort of this misunderstanding of, hey, when we move from a pilot where it's sort of a more controlled environment and the expectations around around success criteria are understood, there's more sort of a willingness on the customer's part to kind of not be accepting of failure, but to understand there's still some parameters that could fail vis-a-vis, okay, someone with a budget has taken some amount of risk to decide, hey, we are deploying this and this is going into like our actual operational context. That gap and that difference when we started deploying things, like once a customer had actually converted, put our engineering team, I think, in a position to, I don't want to say fail, but it was like, oh my gosh, wait, when we go and we are supporting the initial installs, or we're just shipping devices to people, as you described, Joe, without a manual, because like either there was not communication internally that, hey, the people who are doing the pilot are no longer going to be the people who are actually rolling out and installing that kind of stuff on the customer side, or this engineering naivety of, well, it's simple, it's really easy to set it up, right? And it's like, well, it's for someone who not only doesn't know your product but also isn't technical. It's like, and in some cases doesn't give two craps about what you're doing. In a lot of cases doesn't care, may actually be antagonistic depending on the industry that you're in. It sort of can put teams in this position, and I just speak on behalf of engineering, where it's like, oh my gosh, like we actually, as you described, can be creating risk for the company. Because if that initial sort of phase of the rollout is not good, suddenly the person who bought on the company side is like, wait a minute, what's going on? Like, this is a total disaster. So I think to your point, like our solution at both companies was always, okay, make the onboarding process as dead simple and as easy as possible. Make support as readily accessible as possible. So if someone is in a position where they feel they need to like reach out to someone, give them a phone number. And I know it doesn't scale, and I know it's something because we can't give them a phone number, we need a ticket, whatever. It's like, give them a phone number because they are on the site. They're like, I want to get the heck out of here. How do I get home as quickly as possible? And like, if they can call you, that helps so much. So I think that just generally in that technical space, it's like doing those things that it can be a really high risk moment. So I know there's a bunch of hands up here, so I'll put myself on mute.
I just love that there are numbers next to the hands now, so we don't have to keep track. Florian.
So I know a lot of people wanted to reply to Ramin. I was going to take this in a slightly different direction, or at least mention something that is quite widespread out there, but maybe it's for companies that are maybe a little farther along in their journey, which is relying on, they go by different names. They could be a dealer, a distributor, a systems integrator. There's this whole cottage industry of people who don't make robots, but unbox the robots and make them do something. And I just wanted to open the floor and hear about people's experiences without biasing the conversation myself. Any experiences with distributors, good, bad, or ugly?
I guess just real quick, I know we still got the hand line. I think understanding incentives is like the most important thing, and the thing that we missed. It's like, okay, what is the distributor, depending on the industry? It's probably not just depending on the industry, but they're trying to make a margin. And I think understanding that, the difference between, maybe not the difference, but understanding their motivations, and also the level at which that particular distributor is willing to support on an ongoing basis. I think really good distributors want to build great relationships with their customers and want to invest in the technologies and the support, and also can see it as a business opportunity. Others are looking to make the margin on the sale, and then kind of be done with it. And then, of course, this opens the question of who does the support. Andium, we worked with a few distributors, and we kind of created like a secondary support portal that we used to didn't have as many knobs and dials as the one for our internal support team, in order to try and empower the distributors to be able to do support. But suffice it to say, that just created a lot more complexity because we had an additional level of indirection. I think a lot of the problems were solvable, but it certainly, I think it can be. It's exciting. You buy distribution, or you get distribution, and they only get paid when they sell. At the same time, I don't want to say the ROI is questionable. I think it's just maybe not as clear. And then, of course, in some industries, you have to go through distributors, depending on how your customer buys as well.
Yeah, and you have to make sure that the distributor's also financially incentivized to continue to support it afterwards, right? If they're doing support for something that they only get paid once, you're dead in the water.
I want to flip it on its head. I was gonna answer Joe's question about the customer success piece, but I think we're past that point.
Yeah.
Check out that link there, because I just had a great conversation with a guy specifically about that. I think there's a trifecta. I choose number 3. Would love to hear your thoughts on which is the most important piece for CS. Distributors, I feel like this is a very underrated vertical for us. I've worked with distributors both for the drone company and the ag tech company. It was hard, very hard, mostly because the system was not mature enough, both from a performance perspective and mean time between failure and diagnostic capabilities, and our paperwork just sucked. Like from an SOP perspective, you needed someone that can actually pick up the handbook and figure it out. Once you get that done, distributor is the best angle, because in most industries, they charge once. And we come in with our flashy robots and we all speak RAS, right? Most distributors don't have a source of income that's recurring. And then we come in with our solution, and they're the ones who are actually seeing these monthly payments for the subscription coming in. They love us. love us. It's great. It's the best business for them. As long as our system is mature enough and simple enough. If they need to call us 3 times a day, it's dead in the water. I had to fly out to Chile 3 times in 4 months just to smooth the water and say the system's okay. It's not you, it's us. We'll help you. It just fails. It doesn't work. If it's not mature enough, you're dead in the water. Once it is, best business for everyone. Everyone wins.
Ricky, then I'll just.
Questions and answers and small thing I remember. I used to have a very big lab with a lot of robots, and I didn't have a field engineer, so I had to call in the phone. And one of these robots was doing a very specific noise, and very loud. So I said, "It's making a noise," and he said, "Describe it." It's like the Boeing when it is going to depart. He said, "If the robot starts flying, then call me." So after that, I grew very much. So Siemens was my provider. I didn't have distributors, so I make them put a field engineer in my lab for me 24/7 with all the spare parts, and we call that I don't know, health care engineer, field engineer, whatever. So the other thing I want to ask is, does it make sense to build a team of remote support and field support guys? Because you said the guy just want to do the work and leave, but if nobody was paying attention, then it's like the guy didn't went there. So you need someone that, the guy that just went out in the plane and he fixed the robot, but you don't know how to use it. So press 1 or do whatever. So you need a remote guy that says, okay, to fix that, we need to deploy a field engineer. And after the engineer went home, you need a guy that says, remember this, that the engineer did. So is that how it works? Like it worked like that in vitro diagnostics?
Short answer is yes. I want all this if I can respond to that, and then I'll toss it over to you, or if you want the. Okay, perfect. So, Ricky, I think that's a great point. There was actually we've only got 10 minutes, and Florian and I have an announcement at the end, so we got like 8 minutes. I can go on for days. That was actually my second topic of conversation, but as I mentioned earlier, we spun into a lot of really good topics that I didn't want to cut it off. But as a company deploying robots for the first time to paying customers, you're going to lose money on support. You're going to have both your 24/7 based on your customers' hours. They have to be able to get in contact with you during those operational hours when they're operating. You just have to do it. And you have to have people who can be on site within a day or two when something goes pear-shaped. Or potentially, like if it's high value and high availability, you might have to have someone down the street. But you also can't light all your money on fire because you do have a business to run. So giving your remote support folks as much data and access and ability to resolve things as possible, making potentially even working with your customers for smart hand support. If it's just a parts replacement, maybe you can send a part with that remote tool to tell you what part broke, have them replace it, talk it through them on the phone. But you have to have both. You have to have the technician who will go into the field when something's wrong and diagnose it because your tools aren't mature enough to figure out what's wrong. And you have to have someone on the phone at all times they're operating to support them. Otherwise, they're going to say, forget this, I'm going back to what I used to do. And then third, to the point of having a phone number and someone to call. My personal cell phone number has been on more than one contract with a Fortune 5 company. As the, hey, if anything goes wrong, here's the number to call. You have to have that. You have to have one person at the company whose throat is to choke for any performance problems. It's just from a customer perspective, they need to know they've got someone has their back inside the organization, even if it's the, pull the ripcord and escalate. Aldis, I'll hand over to you now.
Thanks, Joe. Now I wanted to add a bit with what Matan was saying with the distributors. That that the knowledge of the deployments, what I found was on distributors, is that they know the operations and workflows and even the technology used at the end user side better than the end user in a lot of ways. I think the relationship, the point here I'm getting at is the relationship with the distributor is not only the accessibility to distribute your technology, but also the implementation done correctly and what the actual use case, what the actual realistic expectations can be set. So we've had some recent instances with distributor, us, and the end user on the same in-person chat, and the distributor was like, well, look, you guys have this, to the end user, you guys have this, but you're not using that. I sold you these robots, but you're not even using it to this potential. This is what we do. And they were like, oh, we thought it was already 100% performing at its capacity. So I just want to add to the point where Matan was saying with the relationship with distributors. Really opens up. Lord?
So I want to take the other angle here of, so we have distributors and we have systems integrators. And, going back to Ramin's point about like alignment of incentives, right? I think I found that with most systems integrators are professional services organizations, right? So they'll say, okay, we'll come in, we'll do this project. It's going to take 3 months, and it's going to take, and then it takes 5, but that's okay. And it's like, it's going to cost you, $300,000. And though in the old world, I would say, of industrial robots, where you had to program every function, you had to, it was all about takt time, and I think it made sense because then you built a production line, and then you didn't mess with it a lot. Maybe every now and then you would do some fine tuning. I'm hearing from our customers, right, that model isn't really scaling for the new world, where you're gonna bring in vendors from different vendors for robots. There's there's like 10 companies that were just started last week or whatever. So there's a lot more diversity. It's not just like the 5 big industrial robot vendors. The tasks are much more diverse, and I still find that most SIs are still living in this old world of like, sure, we'll come in, we'll do 3 months. Oh, you have a new robot? Sure, we'll come in, we'll spend another 6 months and another, $500K. And I think there's a bit of a sea change happening, where some of this is going more to, okay, I'm going to sound highly pretentious here, but modern software, right? As opposed to, ladder logic or whatever they were using. And I think some SIs will manage the transition and reinvent themselves for this modern world, and hopefully embrace platforms like InOrbit or many of the others out there. Others will just, I think, fail miserably, but it's going to be they're going to drag their customers through failure over time. So I'm a little concerned about the industry. And I managed to say that without naming names, so I'm really proud of myself.
I just wanted to say that real quick, because I know we don't have time. I've heard for the last years that all system integrators are very bad at doing software, and it makes sense. In our legacy company that we build software, we are great at doing software integrations. So I'm thinking of absorbing that company into my robotic company, because we are better doing software than the integrators, because we are a software company. So I think that's one thing I've learned, and I wanted to share.
All right. Guys, thanks for the discussion. We'll wrap up, but first, as we always do, if anyone is hiring or looking to get hired, now is your chance to share. And I'll start by saying that I am hiring now, and probably have people in the loop for my robot operations roles right now. But keep an eye out at Autonomy's website. We'll be opening more roles in both QA and in operations over the next few months.
If you want remote, I have.
I know. I figured we'd have that conversation at some point, Ricky. Shola, you mentioned you were hiring as well earlier on today?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, hiring for deployment engineers, customer success managers, and field techs.
Cool. Anybody else? All right. The last bit of exciting news is Roa Business, and on October 15 and 16 of this year in Santa Clara, here in the Bay Area, there will be 2 events related to ROG. One is a panel on scaling fleets, which is being emceed by Florian, and a few of us are on that panel. We also will have a room reserved for us to have an in-person ROG meeting that day, or one of the 2 days that week. And associated with this, we will also get, I believe it's either significantly discounted or free, some passes to give out to ROG members to encourage attendance. And sorry, I keep getting pop-ups on Slack from my boss, which is why I'm a little bit distracted right now. So reach out. One thing we want to do is make sure that we are offering the free passes to people who regularly show up. That's all of you guys. So reach out to Florian and myself regarding these passes to Roa Business if you are interested. And when we get more information on the logistics there, we will let you know.
And related to Robo Business, for anyone who's in town, in Orbit, we have a space that's about 15 minutes from the convention center. We're going to host like an after party with pizza, for everyone. Again, it's a relaxed kind of like a networking hangout. And we have lots of robots. So for the nerds amongst us, you get to play a little bit with them. And also October 16th happens to be my birthday. So, I don't like cake, so I'll have candles on a pizza.
30, how? 30 what? 35?
Wow, I'm that old, Ricky? What? Okay, so with that, just start booking your trips for Santa Clara, for the Bay Area, if you're not local, and hopefully you will all get to hang out in person.
Cool. All right, thanks everybody.
Just a question. Can I promote that I'll be speaking that panel?
Yeah, let's wait until they've posted it. I think once
because
then I think we can start
I
promoting.
haven't received like a certificate of speaker or something,
Yeah, that might be on Florian and myself, to be honest. I don't know if it's necessarily on the Roa Business guys.
I want to say one more thing. If you guys need marketing, I can provide free marketing from my company to ROG.
Well, according to the
assets,
right?
Marketing assets, whatever, for the social networks, whatever, websites.
Yeah, I think, Ricky, I love that. This is a labor of love for Joe and myself. We try to keep this going, but it really depends on all of us to make it what we want it to be. So contributions are always welcome, especially.
I'm talking free jobs. I do the jobs for free because of I'm part of the group, and that's it.
Awesome.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Great chat today. We'll talk next time.
Bye, guys.
Yes, sir.